Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the COASTER-net Dispatch. Tonight, we've got an interesting topic about theme parks, precipitated by the announcement of the Quantum Accelerator at New England. So we're going to start there with the announcement of this brand new coaster at New England. People are like, "Oh, why didn't you talk about Quantum Accelerator when you talked about the other two?" I'm like, "Well, we got something special planned for that." So tonight we're going to look at family coasters and step-up coasters and some stuff that's been happening in the industry in terms of, well, American parks at least, when we see this family coaster revolution kind of. I was also quoted, if you remember, in the San Diego Chronicle, something like that. I was in the newspaper talking about family coasters at one point. I can link that article somewhere. It's somewhere on my drive. I don't know where. But
Sure.
Jeff, you are
No
Mr.
pressure. Click here.
right? You are in the New England region. You're New York
Yeah.
City, close enough, right? Closer than I am. So why don't you tell us about Quantum Accelerator? What's going on here?
Yeah. So New England's actually my home park. That's where I get my pass from.
Okay.
Um, so we go there a lot. And Quantum Accelerator is going to be going into the old Goliath plot. So it's going to be a fairly compact coaster. This is going to be a straddle coaster. So they're working with Intamin Rides again, which is nice to see. This year we're seeing Six Flags working with both Intamin and B&M. It's pretty exciting. It's going to go 45 miles per hour. It's a tire drive propelled launch. There's going to be two launches, and it goes through 2,600 ish feet of track. It's going to have the steampunk theme, which has been kind of big in the chain recently.
Yeah.
Um, Unlike the wing coaster and the dive coaster, this one's actually going to have some scenery, which is nice. I'd rather see it on the dive or the wing, but it's got like these things that kind of look like resistors or like voltastacks, kind of like some electrical components sticking out of the ground. Um, and I think for most people, they're going to be most familiar with the SeaWorld parks that have bought a couple of these things. So Curse of
Yeah,
Dark.
so well, I have been told by people in the comments that the park president of Great America said that there is going to be theming added to Rakshasha, so that they purposely left it out of the animations.
Oh, surprise. All right,
We'll,
great.
we'll go with that. We'll go with that and see what happens come April and May or 2026, depending on what Six Flags is opening next year. I don't know
Yeah.
what their schedules are. Hopefully they open for 2025. But anyway, back to Quantum Accelerator. Yeah, so I've been on a Wave Breaker at
Mhm.
SeaWorld San Antonio. I've been on Dark Coaster, almost said
Right.
Castle,
Uh-huh.
at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. And to be honest, they're fine rides. They're good. They're good. I consider them step-up coasters. So to kind of get into that debate here, that a lot of people are like, oh, it's a family coaster, it's this. And I don't know if I would consider this a family coaster simply because the 48-inch height requirement, once you hit that magic 48 inches, I believe that opens up a whole world of rides to you. So like, I'm a Cedar Point guy. So once you hit 48, you can ride Magnum XL 200. You can ride Gemini. You can ride a lot of the big dogs. You can even ride Millennium Force at that point. So the 48 inches, you have this huge, wide group of people and type of rides, coasters that once you hit 48, it opens up a whole new world for you. That you're kind of stuck in this family coaster. At the 36 inches, you're at, your roller skaters, your real simple roller coasters. Sometimes if you get a little bit higher to 40, you can get your Kitty Woody coasters at different parks. But once you hit 48, you've opened up that whole new realm. So I don't know if I would call this a family coaster. I might call it a step up coaster. But Quantum Accelerator itself, it looks like a decent ride. I'm not a huge fan of Wave Breaker at San Antonio. I don't think it does enough. Like the launches are nice. And the stuff that it does is nice, but I don't think there's enough there to really like sink your teeth into. Dark Coaster, I think, and you've been on Dark Coaster, right?
Yeah, you sent me there for media.
Yeah, exactly. I sent you there for Media Day. You were there. You were there first.
Yeah.
I liked it. I think it could have been better. but I think there's a lot of good stuff that happens on that ride. Like it felt fast, it felt fun. You go through the layout twice, but I didn't feel like you went through the layout twice. They changed it enough for me. I don't know how they did. I still don't know how they did. I don't want to look at it. What were your thoughts on Dark Coaster?
So I really liked it. It exceeded my expectations. But like that being said, like I'm going back to Busch Gardens soon. Uh, I'm sure I'll take one lap on it just because it's there. But
Yeah.
it's not going to be a ride that I'm going to get back in line for over and over a marathon. And Quantum Accelerator, I kind of predict the same thing. My family has already kind of, stepped up and is going on the bigger rides. But when I look at my daughter, who's already tall enough for like Superman. So like, she's already hit the next height barrier. Um, and I look at her friends, they're not ready for, even maybe Quantum Accelerator. Like they're still looking at like the actual kid rides. But I think that that's where this comes in because she might have friends next year and even the year after that are still not ready for Superman, but then they can fall back and we could all ride Quantum Accelerator or Dark Castle or whatever's in your area.
Yeah, so this is kind of like that tweener ride. Like yeah, you have like we were looking up like what's at the 42-inch mark. So like from Disney's perspective, like 36 puts you on Barnstormer, 38 puts you on like Snow White and stuff. Um and we looked up Big Bear Mountain at Dollywood. That's a 38-incher and that's a huge ride.
Yeah.
So 42 gets you a lot of the wild mouses. So you're kind of like meandering in that little zone, and then this is that step up coaster. This is that
So
next level. Like,
exactly. And at every park like that you're talking about, where the rides that fit into what you just described are the wild mouses, which like okay, everybody can go on it, but
yeah,
like I can't get my mom to go on that. Like that would
no,
rip her head off. Like
yeah,
even smaller children like might be like, holy shit, and never go on it
yeah,
again. Like, and that's just a wild mouse. Like, but something that's more modern, like parks are like the Cedar Point Wild Mouse, to contrast it with like
yeah,
every other wild mouse. Like that's a modern ride that's very thoughtful. It's fun to go on. The spinning might put some people off, but like it's gentle and thrilling enough to be at least kind of fun.
yeah.
And that's kind of the new thing is that we're seeing parks investing in that
And I
space seen in a long time.
and I feel like Quantum Accelerator, like the problem is that the seats are not conducive to bigger people. I will say that too. That on Dark Coaster, I had a hell of a time getting on. And the seats, I don't understand the seating arrangement on this because you essentially just sit down in a
Yeah.
regular seat and then
And
the
it kind
lap bar comes down on you and you're kind of like just like enclosed in this thing. And I don't understand the novelty of it because they're like, oh, well, you can lean forward, but I can lean forward on Magnum and Gemini. I can lean forward on those too. Unlike Tron at Disney World, where Tron actually forces you into a riding position where you got to get your knees down and they lock your knees behind, kind of like if you've ever been on Flight of Passage before at Animal Kingdom. It's that sort of same riding style where you're forced into like a motorcycle like riding style. This is not that. This is
no,
literally you
really
sit
like
down in a
different.
seat
Yeah.
and the lap bar comes down on you. So I'm confused as to why they make it so uncomfortable for bigger people because bigger people can ride other stuff. Bigger people can ride Gemini and Magnum quite usually quite easily. A lot easier than I rode Dark Castle or Dark Coaster. I keep calling it Dark Castle.
Yeah.
So I'm confused by the whole straddle coaster concept, but this is their thing now. This is what they do. So any of their these tire launched um you know launched rides, they're using this straddle coaster model, and it's not just America, it's all over the world too.
Now,
It's
they're
nice
actually
here.
much more popular elsewhere. But our correspondent Danny Miller is in Europe, I believe, researching this and planning to go to Asia as well. That's where he's been.
Yeah,
Totally.
he's missing. He's trying to track down that French Raptor, I think. I don't know.
There's an FEC just outside of Paris that he's visiting.
And
So,
he's trying to find. So it's I don't get the seating arrangement, but cool, that's what they're doing. The launches I think are easy enough to tolerate for anybody. So I think that's
mhm.
digestible for any group, for any person in your group for the most part. And then it does like this does seem like it has some nice turns and twists in it. You know, this looks a lot better than Wavebreaker, in my opinion.
It does. I think that the layout looks okay. I mean, it's not a very big space that they have to work with here. I mean, a giant inverted boomerang barely fit into this space,
Yeah.
um, which is I know it's a big ride, but like it's not a big plot. It does have a one really high hill on it. I noticed in the sizzle
Hmm.
reel. I like that term that you coined last
Yeah.
week. The that kind of like sets it apart from the other ones that I've seen because the ride is very much close to the ground. Other than that.
Yeah.
But
So like
now
so you have that
we're
really high hill, and then I'm trying to find the pictures now because I looked off of this. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you have the one really high hill in it, and then like it almost like twists you out of that.
there's a
Um,
lot of twists and turns. They're advertising 11 airtime moments, and if it can pop you out of your seat even a little bit, and give like the whole family the feel of going on a bigger coaster, but in a small package, then I think that's pretty successful. And like I said, it's a space that we haven't seen a lot of investment in. I will give Six Flags New England, this is the third coaster that they have that's in this category. Because Pandemonium kind of fits in this category to me, and so does
yeah.
they also have a Wild Mouth. Now some people might say like Thunderbolt, if we're sticking at Six Flags New England, would fit into this category as well. But that ride was designed to be the most thrilling ride that they could possibly make when they made it. And
Yeah.
probably in your local park, like an Arrow Looper or like a Schwarzkopf or an Arrow Mine Train, sorry, or an old Schwarzkopf would probably fit that mold as well. But those were designed to be the most thrilling rides of their time when they were built. So
Hell,
like
I'll put Wicked Cyclone into the family category too if you want me to. I'll be more than
well,
happy.
with a fantastic ride like Wicked Cyclone and
Like
Superman,
it
like
goes so slow. Like does this ride go faster than Wicked Cyclone? I think it does.
yeah, I've only ridden Wicked Cyclone with the Magic Wheels.
Well,
Um,
that does help. I've heard. I only agreed to do this show simply so I could rip on Wicked Cyclone. I think that was part of the agreement to actually filming this.
but we can leave New England because I know you don't like Boulder Dash, you don't like Superman, you don't like Wicked Cyclone,
Well,
and like
I have one final story about this plot of land. I actually got on the Goliath, the giant inverted boomerang.
yeah,
And that's a feat in itself because that
I'm
thing
sorry, yeah.
ran like once every six, once every three blue moons, you know? So like the damn thing was closed the whole day. And we get there. The damn thing's closed all day. We do everything else, and we're just happen to walk back and we see it open. I'm like, oh damn, we got to get on this. So we rush into line and we're in line and it starts to rain. I'm like, they're going to close this damn ride. And there's not a long line. There's only like maybe like two trains in front of us at this point. So like we're right there. We can taste this ride. And so no, they kept running it and I got on the ride magically, like crazy magic. Got on the ride and I was sorry that I got on it after exiting the
Now
ride.
we're off topic, but we're gonna stay here for a second. Did you ride Deja Vu when it was at no, all right.
I did
See, I
not.
rode Goliath as Deja Vu and I thought it was amazing. And once it
Yeah.
became Goliath and like they put those premier trains on it, I
Yeah.
hated it. I was so happy when it was broken and gone.
Yeah, like I never wrote Deja Vu because I took off Great America for about 10 years. I didn't go there. So like when X2 or when V2 opened and when Deja Vu opened, I didn't go to that park for all those years. And Deja Vu opened and then closed by the time that I had never even walked in the park at that point. That was in my Cedar Point years where I was exclusively going to Cedar Point. I wasn't even going to any other park, so it wasn't like a big deal. It wasn't like traveling around and collecting credits or whatever. So let's move on to the so like I think this fits into a bigger piece of what we've been seeing happening in a lot of American parks, which much to I think Thuzy's chagrin, is that we've been in this middle of this family coaster revolution. That finally, this is I feel like the first year that we're kind of breaking out of it, that we see some real major rides being put into big parks.
You're
So I
really
feel like maybe we're that what?
we're only seeing the one this year for the most part. I know there's kid coasters going in, but those are kid coasters. Like this is really the only like
Yeah,
family.
and supposedly a Vekoma family boomerang with that we've seen all over the place. So like we saw the family Vekoma boomerang go in at Kings Island, Holiday World got the family boomerang. We think a family boomerang's going into Magic Mountain that we're talking about those 7 coasters. So
Mhm.
there's another one there. But I just feel like we've been in this with this Piscetti Bowl coasters that seem
Yeah,
to be a complete
I think
disaster.
those are for kids too. This Piscetti Bowl coasters. Those are meant for children.
Well, and it's a family coaster. They're meant for kids. I think it's a slightly bigger kid they're meant for, as opposed to like your standard, geez, I don't even know what they're called, the Great Pumpkin coasters and your Woodstock Expresses and all those that they
They
do
call
it.
I think they call them the family gravity when they're meant for even tinier children. Yeah.
Yeah. So like and like we've seen this I swear that somebody did research somewhere and said that parks need to put in more family coasters because the last 5 years we've seen like Dark Coaster, another one like that Step Up coaster, this coaster designed for either small kids or middle of the line kids, but not kids that would be, riding like the 54-inch ones yet. So like that those like because once you hit 54 inches, how old are you usually? We're usually around 10, 12.
Yeah, maybe 8 to 10.
Yeah,
Uh,
somewhere around there. Because I know my nephew, he just hit 48. He's 6. So he just hit 48. So like in the next few years, maybe he's gonna grow to 54. Um, but it's just like it's been real rough on me because like there's nothing out there that I've been like, oh, I really need to get to this park. And yes, we've had a few things here and there. We've had Iron Gwazi, obviously. We've had Pantheon
you
be
might need a
installed.
year of these before Robbie Raptor's ready for Pantheon though. You might need
Well,
a castle.
I just feel like these family coasters have been like dominating
Yeah.
the landscape of theme parks.
Vekoma and Intamin are really not like they're not unfamiliar with the family market and they've been there. They've made kiddie coasters, for the longest time. I mean, all the Disney coasters are Vekoma. Your kid coaster at Cedar Point is an Intamin, I believe. Uh,
Yes, it
but
is.
there's a lot of other brands that see this as an important space. We saw RMC introduce the Wild Moose recently, which
Yeah.
was specifically like meant to fit into this and their family coaster the year before. So basically, they're just being like, hey, here's an economical way to implement this idea. We saw B&M jump into this space for the first time after making more coasters than any other manufacturer on the planet. Has started making family coasters this
Yeah.
year. Um, and the Gravity Group, I know they jumped in with Hades 360 and the Voyage and Boardwalk Bullet and Ravine Flyer. They got in there and started big, but it's their family coasters that have really made them more successful and be able to spread out. At least in the U.S. I know in Asia they've sold a lot of really big coasters, but in the U.S. it's like it's Oscar's Wacky Taxi, it's Wooden Warrior, it's Bobcat this year.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that they're able to really sell easily. Whereas like we are not seeing a lot of customers that are like, can you make me one just like the Voyage or just like Ravine Flyer? And those are objectively amazing rides, and you know,
Well, I think
and
you get to the point where so many American parks were so well developed, where space is becoming an issue in so many parks. And obviously we've talked about there's space in every park for stuff. But when you look at major investitures after, like during COVID, after COVID, I don't think parks were willing to go into the 20 to $25 million range for a brand new huge B&M. So what does B&M do? They start building, the family inverted coasters, which we see the one. I have not been at the one on Tampa yet, Phoenix Rising. It seems like they're building another one at Williamsburg.
because they've already got the Animans at all those parks, so now they're going to get the B&Ms in.
Right? So like it's wise on the manufacturer's part because you can come in and sell a park a brand new roller coaster that's going to hit this demographic that the park is identified as a demographic that they want to hit. And you can sell it to them for a reduced price and still keep yourself in business because B&M there, they've always built coasters, and now they're obviously right back in the middle of it with Raksasha and Raptera. And it
And they're
seems like
just selling all over.
it's this little side road that now you can start selling these rides to all these other places. And can B&M sell an Adventureland or a Lost Island, a family inverted coaster, or can RMC sell them a Wild Moose? So it seems like a market that you can convince parks to take a chance on this ride and still get some return on your money from every single group out there. So you can get the kids market, you can get the teen market, you can get the adult thuzy market, because they're going to want to write it, because it's probably better. And honestly, most of the new family coasters, outside maybe the boomerangs, don't really feel like, they feel like step up coasters. They don't feel like family coasters.
Yeah. But if you're traveling as a family of four with four
Yeah.
people paying admission, everything's times four, and not everybody's ready to go on the biggest thrill ride, and we're all big enough to not go on the baby rides anymore. What can we all ride together? If you can't say and after that,
Yeah.
like it's hard to justify that ticket price.
Well, and that's
And
the thing is,
I think a lot of places, are in that situation, and that's why the manufacturers aren't making these things because they wanted to try it out. They've probably been asked,
yeah,
why aren't we
exactly.
getting it for these coasters? Yeah.
And I will say that that we've been to Kings Island this year. We were at Holiday World this year, and both parks did something really wise that my wife even pointed out, and said that this is really intelligent on their part. So you have Good Gravy at Holiday World. Right next to Good Gravy is a little playground that's completely enclosed, that has nice seating for the parents. So I can go take, Robbie Raptor on Good Gravy, and my wife can take, Lexi into the playground, and we can all be in the same area doing something and not just waiting for somebody to get off of a ride. And Kings Island did the same exact thing. They built, the soapbox racers, and then right next to it, they converted their old theater into a huge playground, which was super nice because not only is it a huge playground, but it's automatically covered because it was a covered theater. And I'm like, this is an amazing use of the space because, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot. There's a few slides, there's some stuff to play with, but I've been to SeaWorld, who has a similar thing, in Florida. I've been to Sesame Place, in
Yeah,
Philadelphia this summer.
that whole place is
Um,
like a place. Yeah.
like they have like a little place where it's just a playground just to play in. Epcot, even just in their renovation, just put one in the middle of Epcot. So having
For some
that,
reason, Great Adventure used to have one right next to King Ka.
yeah, and it's like just having that playground where the kids can blow off some steam. And if you want to take, one of the taller kids onto something a little bit bigger, and they have both their Kings Island has both their big rides right there. They got the Vekoma invert, and they got the Snoopy Soapbox Racers right next to each other. So you can take the kid on both of those. The other kids can go play in the little playground, or they can go ride with you. So it's a really wise design, and I like that from a family perspective, and that makes everything feel easier when you don't have to track each other down afterwards. Like, I want to go on this ride with Robert. I don't want to have to track down my wife and call her up and figure out where she's at right now. She's in the playground right there. So it makes everything easier. I'm just telling you that space has been a space that theme parks have been targeting, this young family, market, and trying to get new people in, because we know teenagers go to the parks, right? That's always not been the issue, but it's getting the young families in the door and keeping those young kids into theme parks so that when they become teenagers and when they have their own families, that they come back. It's creating generational fans of this industry. And I feel that we haven't had that we had it in the 90s with the big coaster wars. Everyone was into coasters. People were talking about coasters. You had parks just overbuilding left and right. I just talked about Great America, putting in huge coasters, every single year, and Cedar Point was doing that. Like, it's hard to think of. They put in Wicked Twister in 2001. Well, excuse me, they put in Millennium Force in 2000, Wicked Twister in 2001, Dragster in 2003. Like, this is unprecedented herd like building, and then everything just kind of died. Like a lot of people say Maverick was like the last big American coaster.
You got a ton of investment in the thrill rides. You get investment
Yeah,
in the Planet Snoopy, and then the middle is getting the leftovers or the
yeah,
hand-me-down, the
yeah.
Iron Drag, the Blue Streaks, and like this is a chance to kind of invest in that empty space because as the park grew up, basically the rides that they did in demo became the family ride, and
Yeah,
that's not really fun. Now, I think we can land on the same spot here. I love Big Thunder Mountain.
yeah,
I love Space Mountain.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Everest.
Love is a strong word for all those. So
I don't know, but they're all good rides. Everybody can ride them. Kids can ride them. You can ride them. Grandma can ride it. Like you
yeah,
can all come together, and that's what makes it a family coaster. That's obviously a place that only invests in that spot. They're leaving out. There's really minimal stuff for really little kids, actually, and
and
there's
it's funny
nothing
because
different than high thrills. They're only sticking to that empty space.
exactly, and the thing is I feel like they're finally starting to feel it because Universal now is investing in that other space. Universal is going all in where they kind of started there when they built Islands of Adventure with the high thrill, the Doctor
Yeah.
Doom
No,
Spherefall and the Hulk and
they're taking turns. They get Hagrid's, they get
yeah,
Velocicoaster.
yeah.
They're living both worlds there.
Absolutely, and people rave about Hagrid's too, and that's a solid family step-up coaster. Like that's one everyone can ride. Um, and but then we get Velocicoaster, and now we're getting Stardust Racers out of nowhere.
There'll be a lot
Um,
going on there.
and things are looking really good. So I feel like we're finally coming out of it because it's rough for me. It's rough for me because I wasn't a huge fan of the family coaster. I didn't have kids that could really engage in that. Now they're kind of getting to that point where they can engage in those rides, so it becomes a little bit more fun. But I wasn't traveling to St. Louis to go ride spaghetti bowl
Wow,
coasters. I
because
just
it's not for you.
no, not for me. I wasn't doing it. So, but I
But
feel like
next year
now
when you
we're
come to,
finally that what?
but next year when you're coming through, if you hit the Northeast, you're going to be riding Quantum Accelerator because
Yeah,
for every.
exactly. I don't know if I'm going to hit the Northeast next year. I think I might. Canada might be a long shot for me next year, but then if I go to Canada coming down, you never know. You never know. And we're all going to have nice, beautiful passes for
They
that.
go
That
everywhere.
includes beautiful passes, beautiful passes. So we'll see. We'll see what's going on there. Any final thoughts here on family coasters and Quantum Accelerator?
No, I am looking forward to it, and I'm sure I'll ride it once or twice that season.
Yeah. It should be fun. It should be a fun ride. It's not. I wasn't disappointed that I rode Wavebreaker and Dark Coaster. It's
No,
just like you said. It's you don't want to ride them again. It's like okay, good. Let's move on. Let's move
but
on.
it's fun enough. It's fun enough.
Yeah, right. As always, I am Andrew Barchek from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Jeff Goodman on Long Island, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.